Good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful day to start the morning. We missed the big storm which was coming our way, and there's been some problems from it, so we're lucky we didn't get it here. We got some of the feeder bands, but very little rain, so we're pretty well been dry for the last few days, and we're going to be for the next week. Can't turn that down. All right, we're watching war in the Middle East. It seems like we've always had war in the Middle East. It may not be non-stop, but it seems to be very few gaps. Because ever since Israel moved in 1948 with a UN directive, with the whole world behind it, the Muslim countries hated the idea. And there was a war almost immediately. Every time they've attempted to fight with Israel, they've gotten their backside kicked pretty good. So we've been continually watching how God has been fulfilling his promise. So what are we doing now? What is the situation now? Is this Ezekiel 38? Well, that's rhetorical, because no. Russia's not leading it, and that's the main thing. There's some other things, but Russia's not leading it. Now, they're helping, which is getting them introduced to the bad guys. They're supposed to be shipping some missile defense systems to Iran. I'm actually glad for that. I'm hoping for that. And the reason I'm hoping for that is we get to test our military against their defensive weapons, and let's see how we do. I'd rather fight it someplace else than in Russia. Now, this may be our last hurrah, if you will. The next election coming up, if the current party stays in power, we're done. We won't be helping. They will completely destroy our country. It's almost to the edge now. If Big T gets in, we might have a little reprieve, but they've got so much power and so many people, and you know, if you've got spies everywhere, it's hard to beat somebody like that. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Is this war currently going on prophetic? Now, I'm going to suggest, instead of looking at Ezekiel 38, we look at Ezekiel 28. Now, Bill Salus is a great Bible teacher. You can find him out there, Bill, S-A-L-U-S. And I just watched a video where I knew it wasn't Ezekiel 38, but he's saying it could be Ezekiel 28. And I always was taught that Ezekiel 28's already happened. And I'm also taught that or Psalm 83 has already happened. And another one in Isaiah. We've got to get all the facts straight. He went through and did a good proof to prove that Ezekiel 28 hasn't happened, because it didn't happen in the past the way it said it was going to happen. It may happen similarly, but if it's not exactly the way it's supposed to happen, then it's not the right war. And a lot of the early interpreters of the Bible discounted everything out in the future. They didn't even look at Revelation until they absolutely had to, until after 1948. And even at 1948, when they became a nation, they still didn't have Jerusalem. When the Six-Day War came up in 1967, they won the war and got more land, and they got the Temple Mount. Well, that's a wake-up call for those that were not paying attention to the future. All right. Let's see. I'll put the link for Bill Salus's down in the comment down below. And if you watch it and you like his stuff, you know, subscribe and like him as well. And you might even tell him you saw the link. You got the link from me just so that he can be reminded who I am. Okay, so we're going to look at Ezekiel 38 first to kind of tell you what's coming on. And I'll put a couple of maps up so you can see where the names are at. I'm not going to cover everything because we're not looking at this one. Okay, Ezekiel 38:1. And the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against, basically, have something unpleasant to say to. Set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Those are all up in that northern area where Russia is. And I'll look for the map. And prophesy against him, and declare that this is what the Lord God says. Behold, I am against you, Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around. I will put hooks in your jaws and bring you out with your army, your horses, your horsemen in full armor, and a great company armed with shields and with bucklers and brandishing their swords. Knights in armor, that's all the people knew, and swords, it's all the people knew. Now, we've got far better warfare capability today, but they're going to come out fully protected and armed and ready to go. Persia, Kut will accompany them. Persia's Iran, all with their shields and helmets. But you see, Russia is leading this one. Persia is joining in, but they're not leading. They're going to get their butt kicked. Sorry for the graphic, but that's how I see it in this immediate war that's going on. Whatever's going to happen out of this, if they attack with everything they've got, Israel will attack with everything they've got. And they've already said that they will take out their nuclear power plants, their harbors, and even the palace of the Ayatollah, King's Palace. They'll go after everything. They'll try to avoid civilians, but there will be collateral damage. You can't avoid it. As well as Gomer with his troops and Beth Togarmah, and from the far north, all of its troops, the many nations with you. Get ready, prepare yourself, and all your company gathered around you will be their guard. After a long time you will be summoned in the latter years. You will enter a land that has recovered from war. They're in war now. Whose people were gathered from many nations. Anti-Semitism is driving Jews to Israel. To the mountains of Israel, which had long been desolate. Look at what was there before they came in there. It was sand dunes. They have been brought out of the nations and now dwell securely. Now, securely is important. We're going to see that here in a little bit, but I'm not going to stop there. You and all your troops and many peoples with you will go up advancing like a thunderstorm. You will be like a cloud covering the land. This is what the Lord God says. On that day, thoughts will arise in your mind, and you will devise an evil plan. And you will say, I will go up against a land of unwalled villages. That's important. I will come against a tranquil people who dwell securely, all of them without walls or bars or gates. Okay, we're going to see in 28, they're still secure, but they're not. There's definitely gates. There's definitely walls. The walls may be chain link, but they're walls. So this is what makes this thing unique. Russia's leading, and this is post-war. They're living in peace, essentially. I don't remember a time that they've ever lived in peace since it's become a nation in 1948. So we haven't seen this yet, and it's in the future, and I don't see peace on their future. As long as there are Muslims, there will never be peace until the Antichrist brings peace. And peace in such a way that the Muslims and the Jews are now cooperating, and Israel gets to build a temple. You wouldn't be able to lay one stone today. The Antichrist is the only one who's going to bring peace. He's going to get a 7-year peace treaty signed. It's not as good as the paper that it's written on, but he's going to get it signed. They're going to feel comfortable because they're going to believe he is the Messiah too. The whole world's going to believe he's the Messiah. And he will have signs and wonders to go with it. And he'll have the false prophet to back him up. Is that going to be the Pope? I don't know, but some leader from Rome will be there. And essentially, the Antichrist is also of Roman descent. He doesn't necessarily have to be living in Rome, but he's of Roman descent. Now, quite frankly, most of the world is of Roman descent if you want to go back far enough, because they conquered all of Europe. People in Britain could say they're of Roman descent. The Americas came from there. So, who's to say? But in any case, Ezekiel 38 is not going to happen yet. It's not too far in the future, but it's still in the future. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at Ezekiel 28. Now, if you start at verse 1, the warning is going to Tyre. Tyre is just south of Sidon, which is what we're going to talk about. And Sidon is just south of Beirut. These are coastal cities. If you remember when Beirut had the massive explosion of the arms that were being stored there, the fertilizer bombs and all that, that was a harbor town. So Tyre, Sidon, and Beirut are all on the coast. So the first part of 28 is against Tyre. We're going to turn to 28:20. And then the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Sidon. Similar wording as we see in 38. And prophesy against her. And you are to declare that this is what the Lord God says, Behold, I am against you, O Sidon, and I will be glorified within you. Everything that's going on is to glorify God ultimately. And these are people that have turned against him. They will know that I am the Lord when I execute judgment against her and demonstrate my holiness through her. A lot of the people in Lebanon right now do not want Hezbollah there, do not want war. Those coastal cities used to be Israel's play yard. They were friends until Hezbollah came in and took over. The same thing that happened when they give Gaza to the Palestinians, quote unquote, because there are no Palestinians, but when they give the land to them, Hamas came in and took over. Rigged the elections. Gee, we're familiar with that. And get ready again because November is coming. Rigged the elections, took over, and then started their terroristic attacks. Hezbollah is doing the same thing. And they're doing the same thing in Syria, who's been under a civil war for a long time. There's more countries in Syria now than there are in other, there's not that many countries in any other. We're in Iraq a little bit, but Russia's in Syria, trying to keep the peace. It's not going to happen. Okay. They will know that I am the Lord when I execute judgment against her and demonstrate my holiness through her. I will send a plague against her and shed blood in her streets. The slain will fall within her, while the sword is against her on every side. Then they will know that I am the Lord. For the people of Israel will no longer face a prickling briar. We haven't had a major war from all the countries. We've had major skirmishes, but not a major war. So if Iran tells Lebanon, launch everything you got, that would be a problem. Because so far they've just been a briar poking them. They launched, over the course of, since October 7th, I think they've launched maybe 7,000 missiles and or drones. But Israel can deal with those for the most part. The only ones that have hit have been a problem on Israel's side. People that got killed, I think yesterday or the day before in northern Israel, got killed when one of the anti-missile rockets missed and fell and killed some people. So that was a mistake, but Lebanon was responsible, but they didn't do the damage. So, for the people of Israel will no longer face a prickling briar or a painful thorn from all around them who treat them with contempt. All the nations around them. Every one of them, even those that have pretended to be neutral. We now know that Egypt had tunnels leading into Gaza, allowing arms to go in. Saudi Arabia, they're not innocent either. They're Sunni as opposed to Shiite, but all the Muslims hate the Jews. Then they will know that I am the Lord God. So here's the situation. This is what the Lord God says. When I gather the house of Israel from the many peoples among whom they have been scattered, it's the same situation with Ezekiel. So this is before, with Ezekiel 38. This is before 38. This is 28. 38 still coming. They're still gathered from around the world. It's just this is the early part of it. I will show myself holy among them in the sight of the nations. Then they will dwell in their own land, which I have given to my servant Jacob. They don't have all the land of Israel now. They have a good portion of it, but they don't have, I don't know, I would say that they maybe have a little over half of what they should have. And there they will dwell securely, build houses, plant vineyards, and they will dwell securely when I execute judgments against all those around them. Judging securely is not peacefully. Securely by itself, see, we saw securely in 38, but it also had no walls, basically meaning they didn't need defenses. They do need defenses now. Then they will know that I am the Lord thy God. So, 28, according to Bill Salus, has not happened yet, and that's probably what we're seeing. And more than likely, they will tell Lebanon, Hezbollah, not Lebanon, because Lebanon doesn't have a government. The president resigned and walked away, said this is phony. Hezbollah is running things. And God will take care of them. I want to say get their backside kicked again, but that's basically it. God will take care of it. And apparently, also Iran, because Iran's going to cease to be the leader in this. I keep thinking there's going to be nukes involved, but there may not be, not yet. If God gets involved, he can deal with it properly. In Ezekiel 38, it says that God will confuse them and they will shoot each other. He doesn't need to have nuclear power. He's got far more power than nuclear bombs anyway, but he can basically take care of it. So if he takes care of this next big battle coming, this is going to be interesting to watch. Now, I don't know about, it talks about disease or about, I don't remember the word that was used. I don't see it, but pestilence, I guess, is what the word was. I don't know what that's going to mean, unless that there's so many dead bodies around that they get disease spreading. I don't know. It's not going to be good for them. And they're going to realize that they were attacking God's chosen people. That's the bottom line of all this. You attack God's people, and you're going to pay a price. And you can then, if they get rid of Hamas, and there's still like a brigade left, probably where the hostages are. If they get rid of Hamas and they get rid of Hezbollah, these countries can go back to being benevolent again. Friends with Israel, maybe. I don't know if we're going to get that far. But they can certainly go back to being peaceful. What Satan is doing with these countries through Iran is criminal. It's satanic. And he's going to pay a price for it too. But all of his proxies are going to start paying prices. So this war will probably end with some major destruction, and I don't know if even after all the destruction the war is going to end until the Antichrist steps in. So I think we're really, really, really close to a rapture, because we can't have the Antichrist with us here. Put the pedal to the metal. Get the message out. We don't have a lot of time. Now, could we be wrong on this? Absolutely. But it doesn't look like it. There's too much when you look at all of it together. The failing of our country, the failing of other countries in the world. Venezuela just had a proper election. The bad guy lost, and he won't go away. Russia's sending troops down there to back him up. Understand that? Russia's going to pay a price for their insolence to God. Because Putin is not a good guy. Never has been, never will be. He keeps getting reelected. You ever wonder why? His opposition people just seem to die away. Putin is the ex-head of KGB, the Russian secret police, the SS, if you will. And that's how they deal with people that are against them. They just disappear. They die. They've got a number of different ways to deliver poisons to people. People have been sitting at tables in restaurants in other countries and just fall over dead and find out that they were injected with a little BB, tiny little BB, full of poison. But we don't have to worry. So don't panic. Don't worry about anything that you've got going on in your life. There's nothing going on in your life that God can't deal with. You just got to trust Him. A lot of times we sit and waller in things that are not good for us because we don't have the courage to get up and walk away. Sometimes you just got to walk away from situations. Sometimes it looks like where we're walking to is more dangerous, but not if God is with you and He wants you to move. God won't send you into harm's way unless He's right next to you. And He will clear the way. It's like when you see a celebrity come into an event. They've got bodyguards all around him, and they're pushing the crowd back. God does that with us when we go into a new area. Trust God. Have faith in Him. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. Have faith in Him. Love God and love your neighbor, and you'll be fine. And you're going to see that joy and peace come upon you. Till we meet in the clouds, God bless.